Alright, what's up guys? I am here to present you an overview of the build I've been playing lately since I died on my level 100. I'm playing a Bleed Thorns Barb, which is what I was planning to play when I was gonna level at release. I think I'm just gonna try to give it a go, try to see if it holds up in the end game. So far it's doing pretty good. One of the reasons too that I've decided to do this is to not die to DCs, because as we know lately everybody's been dying in hardcore to DCs, so this build should be DC proof, at least as good as it can be. So I'll show you the tree real quick. We use Flay because it gives us Thorns and DR, Rand obviously, that's damaging ability to kill elites and bosses, etc. Rallying Cry obviously, 3 War Cries, 3 Shouts. Outburst and Tough as Nail. Only 1 point here so that you can bleed. You can max it if you want more Thorns, but I mean, I don't think it's worth the points. It's like 2% per point is pretty ridiculous. Obviously, all the points in Shouts, move speed with swiftness. We use Seal Grasp to clump up monsters. It's pretty good with Thorns AoE, with the aspect. You're basically gonna Seal Grasp. Monsters will proc the AoE Thorns and everything will die around you, so it helps a lot with clear. Also gives you vulnerable and a source of berserking, which is pretty good. Obviously arm string, cut at the bone, you always want those. Pit fighter on every build. And we use a Fierce Impulse since we will be swapping a lot between Flay and Rand, so that's a decent amount of free generation on top of it. And for the last keystone we get Unbridled Rage. Like early game you'll be using Vulcan Arsenal, like I mentioned in my Thorns Bleed leveling video, and eventually once your Fury feels good, you have all the shots and everything, you can go Unbridled Rage, and that's gonna be a ton of damage. Now the aspects that are I think necessary before you can start playing this is, well, you can start playing it without any aspects in particular, but you really want this one. That's gonna help a ton with your clear. And then everything else is just basically filling defenses, whatever. Like for example, I'm using basic skill DR because we just lose Flay a lot. Iron Blood, obviously, everything's gonna be bleeding around you, so that's a lot of defense here. Thorns while berserking, again, it's a big portion of your Thorns comes from here. I'm using Temerity right now, but you can just use legs with, for example, a barrier, just a barrier aspect instead. Unstoppable while injured, obviously in hardcore you always want this. Your neck, you want Disobedience here, which again will proc off Thorns and the bleeds that you inflict with Thorns, or any bleed for that matter. Which means that, for example, again, for the purpose of surviving DCs, you will DC, all monsters will take damage from Thorns and bleed from Thorns, which will keep up your Disobedience at max stack the entire time. So that's it's a huge aspect to have. And then obviously for the rings is the same thing. Bolt, Shiften, and Echoing Fury. Pretty much every build you do this. As for the offensive ones, I use the basic attack speed because, you know, we'll be flaying a lot. More Flay, more Fury, more Rands for single target. Expectant, again, same thing. Just Flay 3 times, Rand, big damage. And the barrier one that is enabled by either Temerity or the Elite Barrier aspect. So it is not a pure Thorns build, like you're also gonna be using Rand, again, like I said, to help with single target. And the reason we do that is because, again, the synergy between Thorns and Bleed is pretty good because of things like Tough as Nail and the fact that your Thorns can bleed. So how you scale Thorns? The way to scale Thorns is obviously you need flat Thorns everywhere, like on your gems. On your items, like on your chest you can get Thorns, on your legs you can get Thorns, on your neck you can get Thorns, and on your, I think that's all. It's like chest, legs, neck, and gems. And beyond that, the stats you want to look for are Vuln damage. Everything will be Vuln with Exploit Glyph with Thorns, for example, which is, you can also apply Vuln very consistently anyway with Flay. So Vuln damage is going to be the best stat, and after that it's Strength, since Strength will, again, give you a multiply that will apply to Thorns. And these are the 2 only big stats that really give a lot of damage to Thorns, sadly. So these are the 2 you want to aim for, and then from there on it's just like any other damage stat. Like all stat is also good. Like I would do all stat just because it gives you strength and it helps feel willpower and dexterity for your paragons. Otherwise, yeah, damage to close enemy, damage to bleeding enemies, damage to slowed enemies since enemies will always be slowed. things like that. This weapon is not very good, for example, so don't take that as an example. But yeah, these are the stats I would go for on your weapons. As for the armor pieces, the stats you really want are obviously you want life everywhere. Armor is good, damage reduction is good. On your gloves, rank of rend obviously. On your helmets, I like life on kill because again, that's another very good layer of defense against when you disconnect, which is the biggest challenge of D4 right now is surviving disconnects. So you would want CDR on your helm, CDR life, strength. Basically strength everywhere you can get it, ideally. Thorns everywhere you can get it, life everywhere you can get it, and beyond that you will be vuln damage. Like on rings, my rings are really bad here, so don't really look into those. But normally you would want like life, vuln damage, resource generation, or the 3 big stat, and then you fill the last one with like either, I don't know, fortified generation, barrier generation, maybe. I would say, and any damage to close, bleeding, things like that. And the neck, yeah, obviously plus 2 defensive skill, CDR, thorns, and the last stat I would have preferred free cost reduction, which is also a stat you want from your boots, move speed, free cost reduction, and anything else really, like strength, armor, all this stat. And one of the problems too with this is the defense on that, like, contrary to what you might think, like Thorns defense is actually pretty bad because you have to use your gems for Thorns gems to get more Thorns, and that is a big problem because then that means you cannot use fortified damage reduction while fortified gems, and you cannot use rubies for more life. On top of that, ideally you want to use Razor Blade, which I'm not right now because I don't have it, and I don't even know if I would use it if I get it. I probably should. But you will have to use a Razor Blade, which means you lose your chest slot and you lose an aspect, a defensive aspect, which is a really big deal. So I think on this current setup, for example, if I were to use a Razor Blade, I would use Razor Blade, drop Temerity, put the Elite Barrier in there so it can still enable the barrier aspect, which is the best aspect for damage that you can use. As for the Paragons, again, it's a work in progress. Like I haven't really planned anything. I just logged in and started playing the build. So I knew it worked from the beta. I just haven't like sorted out exactly how I'm gonna min-max it, but I'm gonna try to take it like to the end game and see how far it can go. I'd say all I can say is like the glitch you really want are exploit, martial obviously. I'm using territorial right now, but I think the next priority is disembowel. This allows you to have better shout up time. And I would also use Might. Might is also pretty good because it's 8% increased damage while wielding 200 weapons, which should work with Thorns. Both with Thorns and Bleed. So yeah. I think that's about all actually there is to talk about. I would also use as a keystone Warbringer obviously is a 45 generation, so you always want that like on any bar build. I'm going for Blood Rage because Berserking uptime is very important to give you more Thorns. And I don't think I'm gonna use another legendary. I haven't figured that out yet. I'll update you guys when I have something that I know is the best with any question. But like I think this is pretty much like up to like how you wanna play your character, like how you wanna build it. Like I don't think there's like a right or wrong, really. Like the legendary node is not that important. I think it's the 2 ones that are important. Maybe Hemorrhage. I would say Hemorrhage are probably the next one you would want as a legendary nose as far as legendary nose comes. So after this Decimator board here, I will probably go for Hemorrhage since it's like what 12% damage, something like this. But yeah, I think that should be it for a quick build overview on this Bleed Thorns Barb. I think so far it's working well. I'm level 71. I am War Tier 4. I've been doing Nightmare Dungeons. I haven't run into any issues. My damage is good. My defense is well getting better. But yeah, I'm gonna try to solve the main problem, which I think once pushing higher tier content like on Nightmare 60-70 plus is probably gonna be the defense, and I'll see how I'm gonna tackle that. But I think probably gonna be something along the lines of getting a bunch of life on the Paragons, like trying to get as much life as possible since you cannot, and try to scale your Thorns that way. And yeah, we'll see. But that's about it. If you have any questions or suggestions, make sure to let them below, and I will see you guys on my stream. I stream every day again, twitch.tv/Carn_. And yeah, let me know what you think. Peace.